Hey everyone, it is another episode of This Week in Science. We are here broadcasting because I clicked the button and we're live. So that's a great thing. We're not going to talk about, the best, worst movie villains. We are going to talk about science. That's what the next tight 90 minutes. 90 minutes. It's all going to be about, ish will be all about. We're missing Blair tonight, and we're sorry to miss her, but I hope that she is having a wonderful vacation, driving around, doing whatever she's doing. We don't pray. We just hope she's having fun. But it's time for us to start the show. So just remember, this is live, and when we do mispronounce things and when we make mistakes, that's just live and the way it is. We don't have a script, and we don't have all sorts of producers and other things.
You don't have a script? I have a script. Do you not get sent a script?
I don't get sent. Nobody sends me a script.
There's a script to the. I'll forward it next week. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Send me the script, Justin. I mean, really, it's all improv over here. Yes, we are here. We're live. We are unedited in this video space because we are live streaming. The podcast is edited, and we thank Rachel, our editor, for doing that. And I guess it's time for us to get started. Make sure to click those likes and those hearts and the ups votes and all the things so that other people in the search algorithms find us when they're looking for science. Time to begin. We are starting this show in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 904, recorded on Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. Justin, how can you science your way out of a lying toddler? I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on the show, we are going to fill your heads with Chardonnay, lying toddlers, and a big ol' science feud. But first...
Disclaimer. The planet, Earth, the one we are living on, is in trouble. The moment in which we can do something about it is now. We let a lot of nows go past without doing anything, and so we are running out of them. So this now, the today now, is really the most important one of all. So much so that the United Nations COP15 Biodiversity Conference that started today is being called the last best chance to save the planet's species from irreversible destruction. So there is still hope that a global deal to protect nature and the benefits it provides to all people will be negotiated during the conference. We just need to rely on world governments to prioritize things that there's. What do they got there? The equitable sharing of benefits from the use of nature and the safe transport, handling, and labeling of modified organisms. Oh, no, they're going to address biotech legal issues, not planet-wide sustainability, which is important. The biotech issues are extremely important. That's such a weird issue that you can't use a microbe if it was found in a foreign nation to do your research. But still, the planet is the planet. We only have one. And it's the only one we know that can support This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I wanna learn everything. I wanna fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I wanna know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki.
And a good science to you too, Justin. Blair is out for the night, but we are here, as we love to be, to talk about science pretty much every week of the year. Oh, it's December already. I don't know how it got here, but somehow
What?
we are here.
Well, last month.
I know, it was
Wait a minute.
November. Yeah,
And before that,
it is October. I know.
it keeps
math
going. It
I know,
doesn't. It doesn't pause.
The,
I keep waiting for
the pause
time to
button?
pause.
Yeah. No, there's no pause button. It keeps going. And so here we are in December. And
Wow.
yeah, I just want to say happy Twissember.
Yeah.
This
This is
the-
always an exciting month because we're
Yes.
gonna have at some point, I think still in December, we have the top 11 stories of this
Of the
past
year.
year.
Yep.
Boy, and it's been
What year is
it's
it?
a remarkable year.
2019?
It's 22.
Oh.
You're still paused. We gotta unpause
Oh,
Kiki.
Right. Okay.
We're
okay.
gonna, and then at some point, either by the end of this month or maybe the beginning of the next month, we'll have our prediction show
Yes.
where we're going to check how the predictions we made last year about this year's science and make new predictions for the future.
The scientific future. Yeah. So there are some fun shows that are coming your way and our way because we enjoy doing these shows every year. And this is another week full of great science news. And I have brought stories about, yes, a science feud. Yes, there is a debate happening in the paleo community. And Justin, you're going to love this story. We also have I brought the lying toddlers. That's what I do. I come to parties. I bring the lying toddlers. And I brought a cold nose, some animal sounds, and some concerns about Neuralink. What did you bring?
Let's see, we got some I got really old DNA. Some really like this DNA ever. Yeah. How to a new segment.
You're breaking up like
Idols
crazy.
versus dog. I messed it up.
You're breaking up like crazy. Let's stop for a second.
Oh yeah, I know. It's because I opened a Google Doc. It's because I opened a Google Doc. I'll turn it off. I got really old DNA.
Yes.
How to avoid autumn children. A new animal segment. Idols versus owl dolls, and just good news. Chardonnay edition.
Oh, I love Chardonnay.
Hopefully my
Let's
internet
get
can
some.
recover from opening a Google document. I don't know why it becomes a problem.
We will see, as we will also see what is going on with all these scientific stories as we jump into the show. I want to remind you all that even though Blair's not here, we're going to still talk about some animal stuff. That's going to happen. And if you have not yet subscribed to the TWIS podcast, you can find us most places podcasts are found. We are known as This Week in Science. You can find us also by looking for TWIS. And we stream weekly, 8 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. We are TWIS Science on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. And if this is just a lot, go to twis.org. That's our website where you can find all sorts of fabulous things, like the link to purchase our 2023 Blair's Animal Corner TWIS calendar, which Blair did some amazing work on to create some incredible Lego animals. It's all Lego based. It's really great.
Rad.
Yeah, and you can purchase through the Zazzle link, which will get you a nice printed calendar, or you can also purchase through a PayPal link that will get you a downloadable PDF so you can print it as you would like. But now it's time for This Week in Science. What do we have? I'm going to start with a little science battle. You ready?
Yeah. What is this? You built the controversy teaser. Now I want to know what it is.
I know, there's controversy. So we have talked on this program about the paleontological discovery at a site known as the TANIS site that is here in North America that has evidence in the form of little not crystalline, but spherules that were found in fish and fossilized organisms, and the layers of sediment that time it to the impact at the Yucatan crater of the asteroid that killed all the dinosaurs about 65 million years ago or so, creating huge tsunamis that pulsed up through the river valleys of North America and really show the impact of how far-reaching that impact actually was. Killed the dinosaurs, but what else happened? Okay, so we know that there was a researcher who, Robert De Palma, who published his research on this subject. There was another researcher named Melanie During who, in June 2021, submitted a manuscript to Nature. And she was pretty excited because she was working at that same paleontological site, which, by the way, Robert De Palma has the lease on to do the work in. But she was a graduate student. She's doing the work. And she was like, oh, I found some cool things. She got De Palma to send her fossils that she dug up. And she did a lot of work that really solidified those spherules that could be used to carbon date the impact and what had actually happened. So they were working together, During and De Palma. They were working together. They were at the site at the same time. De Palma actually sent her fossils. They were all doing their stuff together. During put him as a second author on her paper that was published in Nature in February. And she discovered in December 2021, while her paper was still being reviewed, peer-reviewed, her collaborator, De Palma, published his own paper that did not she wasn't included on, used a completely separate data set, and they are saying that De Palma made his data up.
What?
Yeah. So this is reported in Science. And
Who is that? Oh my God.
And the Melanie During, she has a Twitter thread that she talks about this a bit on. This is reported by Michael Price on the science.org news website. But the thing is, he published basically the same conclusions that During had come to, but without putting her on the paper, using his own data that nobody can replicate, that nobody can know whether or not it's accurate because he has been unable to produce that data set. People have asked for the data set, and he isn't giving it to anybody. And so
This is very, very, sounds like he Francis cricked her.
That's kind of what it seems like is going on. Yeah.
Like, you've come to a final solution. Well, why don't I write a paper that just points out the final solution, and then he's like, I'll get to fill in the details later. Yeah. Because that's literally how they ended their first paper on DNA, by the way. We understand ramifications of what we've put in this paper, and we'll provide more definitive details on it later. That's how they finished their paper. Here's our conclusion. We'll give you data and fill in stuff some other point further down the road.
Yeah. So in this Science article, it says that the data that would be the data that De Palma would be giving to everyone to support his analyses, he says the raw data are missing because the scientist who ran the analyses died before the paper was published. And so nobody's been able to get the data out of this deceased person's laboratory.
Oh, okay. Now look. As long as he did name them on the paper,
right?
Cited them that work. So because that's a huge thing. Raw data can sometimes be pretty massive. Can sometimes take up a lot of space. It sits on a computer or a server somewhere. It's not the output that you generally put into a paper. It's not the,
Right.
that's, the analysis is all done in the box, right?
Yeah,
If somebody who owns that box is dead, it can be impossible, maybe even. Really
Right.
difficult to then get into that electronic device, get the rights to it. You got an institution, and then you got an individual, you got passwords, you got encryption stuff, all that sort of nonsense involved. That's possible.
Yeah.
At least.
So, what I think is very interesting here is that in science, getting the scoop, being the one to publish first is often, that is so much of the scientific endeavor. Competition is, we don't talk about it a lot on this show, but the competition within science is to be the first to publish something there's huge pressure there. And so there's a game being played here that we might not know. We don't know all the information on. What we do know is that De Palma did release a lot of the information ahead of publication, that there was a media circus around his findings, that there's even a documentary that has been published related to the findings that he and also, what During published about and other researchers. But there's a lot that hinges on this, and it's fascinating to watch this coming out in real time, and to see a young female scientist actually putting her foot down and trying to get some credit, right? Saying, no, I did this work. This is my stuff. This is what I did. And, so
is there etiquette involved, though? Because you're saying, he's got the
There is etiquette.
lease
She
on
put
the...
him as second author on... She put him as second author on her paper, and he left her off.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't sound right. But then again, the way you presented it initially is he had the lease to do the research on this land. This sounded like his project.
Oh, yeah, he's got the lease.
Other researchers, and he let other researchers jump in.
Yep.
So is there any kind of etiquette where it's like, all right, this is your project. I've got a paper that is now ready to go. But since this is your thing that you brought everybody else onto, do we wait for you to publish? Do we confer with you first? I don't know how that's all supposed to work. But I can tell you if it is fake data.
Yeah, and that is the concern. So During has said that she's noticed irregularities in the figures. There's concerns that the authors aren't publishing their raw data, and they're so people
they're dead.
People are looking into it. I mean, the story still stands because During has published her data, which she insists is correct, and she can publish her raw data. She's got it supporting her. So anyway. It's a scientific...
because
it's a feud.
She didn't collaborate with dead people.
That's right.
That's a very difficult situation. It's a very difficult situation to parse out from the outside. However, if she contributed to the findings that are in the paper that she was left off of,
Yes.
Then yes, you should absolutely cast this individual out into the wilderness, banished from society. If, on the other hand, if the perspective is this was his project and he let other people jump in and do research in that space that he had carved out, as long as they didn't interfere with his thing, then it's a different story.
Yeah, so here's the question. Is it he was doing his own research and doing his own thing and let other people use the ground that he was leasing, that area? Or is it that, she shared her findings with him, tried to get him to be on, to work with her, and he refused, and then went on without her, using her information.
Jealous that his project, where he found nothing of interest, somebody else has made a major discovery, And well, it should be mine. I got the land lease. I filled out the grant paperwork or whatever it was, and therefore everything's mine. Right then, that guy is a jerk.
Yeah. So, what the bottom line is? This is the stuff that has been found at the TANIS site does have data supporting it. We do have data that supports the timeliness. We do have data that supports how this might have worked. So it's great to know that there are possibly multiple studies that are all supporting the interpretation of what happened and what De Palma has been publicizing through the media.
Or one story that has data supporting, and another one that claims to.
Yeah.
Because actually, and this is an interesting thing that's sort of sideways, but it's actually a problem I have with a lot of early psychology experiments. There's a trend of early psychology experiments when a big study is publicized and a lot of people. The marshmallow test is a perfect example.
Yes.
The marshmallow test got a lot of attention right away, and subsequently researchers did their own version of it, different, and got like the exact same result.
Right.
Something that in psychology is insanely difficult to replicate to begin with. But when there's a very popular study, there's a bunch of researchers who, this is especially old, and I'm sure it goes on still today, but this is the specific cases, one of the specific cases. There's a lot of replication that happens that's very similar to the point where it becomes suspect.
No, I mean, there's the other side of it, which is actually in psychology, the effort to replicate psychology studies. And there has been a very big effort to actually go through these big psychology studies that seem to have these amazing results and replicate them and see if they can get the same results.
Yeah.
And very often they're not able to.
It's a
so
coin
replication,
flip.
the point is, replication is important.
It is.
Collaboration is important. Science to this, science itself as an institution is competitive, and I've known other people to be scooped on their science, and and careers change as a result of that. Who was the first? Who was the second? But it's interesting to see this come out now, and to see this feud, and we will let everybody know where it goes. Will there be more replications? Will the data come out? Will De Palma find the data? Will he not? What's going to happen? We don't know. But I think it's a very interesting case study of how science sometimes happens in a way that isn't all nice and shiny and in the laboratory and findings that we like to pretend that it is very often. But let's go back in time. You like archaeological stuff. Tell me a story, Justin.
Yeah, so once upon a time, a young PhD candidate was looking out his window, and he saw a dog take a dump on the sidewalk. And he thought to himself, wow, I bet that the DNA of that dog is going to be in the surrounding soil for the next 1,000 years. And this PhD candidate brought it up to his advisor, PhD advisor at the university there, at the science university he was going at. And the advisor said, "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard." Well, now that candidate got his PhD and he went on to become a world-renowned scientist, Professor Eska Villerslev, who has pioneered the field of environmental DNA.
eDNA.
eDNA.
Yeah.
And has made now a record-breaking discovery. 2 million year old DNA has been identified, not just identified, sequenced. Sequenced and categorized.
Wait, 2 million year old DNA? Like
million. At least.
That's
at
a
least.
big deal.
It could be older. This is an important note because they used the most conservative time estimation that was available. And they got to 2 million years. It could be much older, in fact. It was identified in northern Greenland sediment. Researchers discovered these fragments. That's 1 million years. Like, we have a 1 million year old segment of DNA from a Siberian mammoth bone. That's the record holder. Was. Doubled it. 2 million years old. Way back. And environmental DNA, so it's not from a creature. It's from over 100. This was made possible, but it's just incredible. But okay, so this is Professor Villaslev says a new chapter spanning 1 million extra years of history has finally been opened, and for the first time we can look directly at the DNA of a past ecosystem that far back in time. According to Professor Kucher, who I think is the one of the other researchers on the paper, the ancient DNA samples were found buried deep in sediment that had built up over 20,000 years. The sediment was eventually preserved in ice or permafrost, and crucially not disturbed by humans for 2 million years. At first I read that and I'm like, wow, something undisturbed by humans for 2 million years. And then I was, oh, well, yeah, current modern humans weren't really
not really
around for most of that time. And we show up, and the first thing we do, hey, let's go dig in that undisturbed 2 million year old bit of dirt. So
ice.
Samples were taken from something called the Kubenhauen Formation, a sediment deposit 100 meters thick at the mouth of an Arctic Ocean fjord in Greenland's northernmost point. The climate, they say, there in Greenland at the time was varied between being Arctic and temperate. It was 10 to 17 degrees Celsius warmer than Greenland is today. So much warmer than now. It was 40 researchers from Denmark, UK, France, Sweden, Norway, US, and Germany working on this, looking at the DNA segments. Apparently the process was pretty painstaking. This is 2 million year old DNA, and they needed a way to get the DNA that was hidden in clay and quartz rock and detach it from the sediment to examine it. And the question is, could they do that? And the answer was no. They could not.
Okay.
Yeah, they could not do it. So I got Villaslev says we failed. We tried and we tried and we tried and we tried and we failed and we failed and we failed again. And then they did some more science to it, and the answer became yes, they could, yes, they did. Researchers turned to matching these DNA fragments with animals, plants, and microorganisms, and they created a map of a 2 million year old ecosystem because they got so much. This must have been sort of exciting and also a little bit tedious, because what you're doing is you're Googling within a library of known DNA, very small fragments. Yep. You would hope to have a sentence. You might have a few, you might have a word, you might have a couple of words. You hopefully have more than that in a row. In these fragments, you might get some of that, you might not. But so what happens is you get you could get a conserved section of DNA. This little fragment that you're searching through the library might be a conserved fragment. It might come back with the answer plant. You might come back as like, this matches mammals.
Right.
Right. You could be, but if it's more specific segment, something that isn't as generally conserved, it works more like a keyword search. So now you're searching in the right family of animals, right? Species of animals. Maybe even get something that only occurs in Arctic hares, for instance. So some of the DNA fragments were easy to classify this way as predecessors to present-day species. Others were stuck at the genus level. Some originated from species impossible to place in the DNA libraries of any organism alive today, suggesting that only aliens from another planet could. Just kidding. It's never aliens. It never is. It never is. So,
suggesting those were lineages that died out that we haven't found again. Yes.
That died out, or it could be died out, absolutely, or it could be the segments. Also, the segments just might not have been able to be categorized, whether they were too small or just didn't fit into any. You never know what you've got in terms of that segment, what bit of the code it is. So picture began to emerge of this very different, balmy Greenland. They found DNA from trees, bushes, birds, animals, and microorganisms, reindeer, hares, lemmings, black geese, horseshoe crabs, birch and poplar trees, more than 100 plants, and mastodons.
What?
Previously not thought to roam so far off the ranges of North and Central America, they found evidence of mastodon DNA. So apparently quartz and clay in the soil played a crucial role. The charged surfaces of the minerals captured DNA and protected it from degrading enzymes and oxidizing agents. So DNA has a charge. And apparently so does the crystallized minerals, or the quartz minerals in this soil. And so I guess it would work a little bit like a static cling. It just sort of like attaches itself magnetically, I suppose, to the
electrostatically.
Yeah. And and this was all figured out by co-author Karina Sand, a geochemist at University of Copenhagen. The onset of the ice ages, then, about 2.5 million years ago, helped by keeping the DNA frozen to the present day. And then such a lush, balmy ecosystem could have existed 500,000 years into the Pliocene, suggests Greenland hadn't yet fully glaciated, because there's no trees in Greenland. There's not that. There's a lot of small plants, but not in any great collection. Certainly some of those animals aren't there, right? But there are muskox still there today. But the trees is really odd. So this must, so the question is, it hadn't fully gone glacier yet in Greenland, or maybe this was a warm point in an interglacial period, or the DNA might just be older than they think because of the way that they did the dating. It could be before 2.5 million years then, I suppose, because that's the glaciation event coming on. But let's have this quoting here. This is a break. So this is a breakthrough when they realized they could unstick the DNA from these minerals. And Willerslav is saying, Karina Sand was instrumental in breaking the Cap-Copenhagen curse. She and colleagues learned how to liberate nearly half the DNA bound to quartz and much less of that bound in clay in 41 samples. They sequenced and extracted DNA in many short stretches and screened nearly 3 billion reads against libraries of living species. He goes on to say, DNA generally survives best in cold, dry conditions, such as though that prevailed during most of the period since the material was deposited in this fjord. But now that we have successfully extracted ancient DNA from clay and quartz, it may be possible that clay may have preserved ancient DNA in warm, humid environments and sites found in Africa. If we can begin to explore ancient DNA in clay grains from Africa, we may be able to gather groundbreaking information about the origin of many different species, perhaps even new knowledge about the first humans and their ancestors. Possibilities, says Gillisev, are endless. So, and what's really fascinating about this is that,
Yeah.
not only did they break the record once, in the sense of getting a older DNA, 2 million year old DNA, a million years older than that mastodon bone that was previously the oldest. They did it hundreds of times. Right? Like, it's not just for one thing, it's for 100 plants and all these animals and trees.
And it's a new method because it doesn't rely on that complete isolation of the DNA from the substrate, which is something that has been basically just the foundation of genetic sequencing. So, I mean, I guess the question now is we want to make sure, the fact that they've done it hundreds of times, they've got all these different species, they've got lots of matches with different things. It seems as though they've crossed their T's, dotted their I's, done their homework, made everything work. But, the question is, even today, in looking at like COVID-19 sequencing from different places, we have contamination issues, right? So what is the potential for cross-contamination of the sample with stuff that is currently in the environment? How do we know that there's not, we need more data. We need more studies. We need replication, like we were talking about. But yeah, I mean, if this can be fossilized and preserved in a cold climate, could it be found in a warm climate where where you wouldn't normally expect to be able to find this kind of information because of degradation, because of humidity?
Humidity and heat are usually two problems. But if you've got something that's underground, not oxidized, and then you've got this static cleaning effect going on with the quartz, it gives a great possibility that this is elsewhere. And the thing that there is a mystery here that I can't quite sort. We've got a balmy. They're saying balmy. They're saying it was almost an environment unlike what you see anywhere else in the world, where you have the Arctic environment. How did they get there? How'd they get there? It's one thing when the North Sea freezes over, which there's still going to be the winter. It's still that far north. It's still going to have 6 months of darkness. You're surrounded. You're an island. There's water.
Swimming
it could
mastodons.
Freeze and something could walk over.
Yeah. Mastodons. They've got a built-in snorkel.
And reindeer.
I don't know.
And reindeer. So I mean, there's stuff walking over there from North America. And you usually picture that island hopping most places during a glaciation event when the sea levels are really low.
Land was
and
kind
then,
of in different
islands
places
and
too.
But then if it's really cold up there, it could freeze over, so you could walk over ice. But which is it? You're saying it's too warm for the ice, but too cold for it's a great mystery. It's a great mystery.
It's a wonderful
It's going to be fun for
we love the mysteries.
To delve into that issue.
Yes, let's delve. Well, let's talk about the mystery of the club at the end of the Ankylosaur's tail.
Oh.
Why does it have a club?
Thing back there.
Yeah, Ankylosaurs.
Well, if my cartoon knowledge of dinosaurs is any indication, it's for whacking things.
For whacking things, exactly. So a researcher has been looking at the Ankylosaur for years and years and years. And in this particular study, lead author Dr. Victoria Arbour, curator of paleontology at the Royal British Columbia Museum at the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, has been studying Ankylosaurs for a very long time. And she was like, tail clubs. Some of them have them, and some of these very similar dinosaurs do not. What were the structures used for? So you think, It's a big old club at the end of the tail. It's probably used for bashing. And so she was asking, okay, is it a weapon? So in 2009, she suggested in a paper, this is a weapon for bashing. But you needed evidence for that. So they did work looking at the flanks of adult fossilized ankylosaurs and found that there were all sorts of wounds that had healed. There was damage on the outside, evidence of broken and injured bony structures on the outside of these osteoderms, which, by the way, I love their name because I'm a Ghostbusters fan. They are identified as Zool crurivastator. Zool, right? Zool from Ghostbusters, and then the other words for crurivastator, Crus, Shinner Shank, and Vastator, destroyer. The destroyer of Zool, the destroyer of shins, which is a pretty awesome name to have, and, you know, I might change my name. Anyway. The idea was, okay, is this a weapon for self-defense? Is it a weapon for, you know, fighting against other ankylosaurs? Is it a weapon, you know, are they fighting against T-Rexes? What's going on there? So they did a bunch of, you know, their analyses, and they were like, look at all these ankylosaurs with their broken up bones and other things. And so anyway, evidence. The clubs at the ends of the tails of the ankylosaurs were for, not are, I mean, we just see them now, but they were for bashing other ankylosaurs. So it was like when the behavioral posturing stopped working and they fought each other. What did they have to fight with? They had the tail clubs. And so they used them against each other. The reason they know this is because there were not any comparable injuries on the other similar dinosaurs, the nodosaurs, that did not have tail clubs. So ankylosaurs were like, dude, I'm going to fight you. And then they fight each other. And the nodosaurs were like, I don't have anything to fight you with. We're not going to fight.
Somewhere in a grave, there is a researcher turning over an old paleontologist, well, very old now, who discovered the ankylosaur and already noticed this. And it's like, yeah, it was wordplay. Ankle, sore, get it? That's why I named it that. I discovered that 100 years ago. Oh, never mind. I'm dead now.
So from these, they did not find any evidence of bite marks or scratch marks that would have been evidence of predation.
So this wasn't the velociraptors coming and causing damage and then...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. These were ankylosaurs going, I have a beef with you. I'm taking out your shins. I am Zool, destroyer of shins.
So it's such an oddly weighted tale in that respect. So you wonder if was this used in mating competition? Was this just accidental? Hey, look, we've developed this tail that can go like, look what I can do with my new bang. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, and they're just apologizing to each other constantly. I didn't mean it. Didn't mean it. Just got this big whack-a-mole thing on my tail. It's way back there. I can't even see it when I turn around. I don't know. That's pretty wild. Yeah.
So the lead researcher likes to, which I'm sorry Blair's not here tonight to discuss this, but enjoys the analogy that the tail of the ankylosaurs is similar to the head of a giraffe. So male giraffes with their ossicones, their little horns at the top of their heads, will swing their necks around and smack each other with their heads and can really hurt each other and break each other's legs by using their heads and their horns as a weapon. So this is the
I had a giraffe swing at me once. It's very frightening. It's very telegraphed, too. It's not that difficult to avoid.
Here comes.
Yeah, it's very much like that. It's like, what are you? Oh, I see what you're doing. Yeah, plenty of time. But gosh, it's powerful. So
Powerful.
you want to avoid getting hit by giraffe heads or ankylosaur tails.
Or ankylosaurs and their tails, yeah. All right, let's talk about ADHD. Is that where you want to go now?
Yeah, so this is not exactly new news. We've known for decades that the youngest child in a classroom is most likely identified as having attention deficit hyperactive disorder. We've talked about it on the show plenty of times. It's all kind of came about when instead of doctors, they started having teachers do initial assessments on whether or not a child was hyperactive. And you know, the result is that a lot of kids who happened to be the youngest child in the classroom got pegged as ADHD, whether they actually were or not. Now, an extremely comprehensive study has confirmed that this is so. In the study that included all Norwegian children born between 1989 and 1998, a total of around 488,000 individuals.
Wow. Okay.
Not often you get a study
size.
That's all of a population.
Yeah.
They found that children born in November to December had an 80% higher risk of being prescribed ADHD medication compared to those just born in January, February. So I guess that means there's a pretty simple solution to ADHD. Just don't have sex in early spring. That way you avoid the autumn children problem entirely.
Right. You don't have the youngest child who is a little bit behind in the developmental aspects of what.
But of course, then you know what happens. Those summer kids become the youngest, and then it just continues.
It continues.
Although,
the way that we're looking at it and the way that we are defining these self-control issues and these, I guess, defining character or allowing school teachers to be the first.
It's probably not the best.
About it.
Probably not the best way to go. So, according to the study lead Christine Strand Bachmann in the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, says it looks like we're medicating the most immature children because we're comparing them to their oldest classmates who are a year older. So obviously, they're going to seem different. That shouldn't be the basis for receiving an ADHD diagnosis. We have to expect that a child born in November is going to be less mature than a February child born the same year. Of course, we can't stop diagnosing ADHD and giving medicine to those who need it, but what we see here is something else. In particular, she also was studying premature children born before the 37th week of pregnancy. So then they've actually got it the worst if they're born as an autumn child, because they're prescribed medication at even higher rates, because the tendency there is they're born early in autumn, and so they're in class. They're more than a year, right? They're a year and some more months younger in essence, along the path of development than their peers. So they get a little double burden there. But yeah, she says it has everything to do with age in class. There's no seasonality link. There's no seasonality link. There's no, because of autumn children being born and having to come into the world in the winter, they become, no, it's nothing like this.
That's not,
it's
that's not the issue. Yeah.
Is the cause of excess ADHD diagnosis. One solution, she says, is that you could just wait till the following year.
Or not compare children against their peers and just base what's happening on, how they're developing and whether or not they are developing and reacting to situations and working on stuff at the pace at which we consider to be quote unquote average. And, as Aaron Laura is saying, it potentially in our chat room right now over on Twitch, maybe it's lucky that younger kids get diagnosed earlier when they need it because of this. But at the same time, there is this potential aspect of overdiagnosis because you're just looking at kids who are developmentally less mature with respect to the older
higher
kids
rate.
in the class. Yeah.
80% higher rate.
So.
And then by the time they're teenagers, a lot of that's going to disappear in terms of the differentiation with who's on medications and not. But that seems like there's definitely a problem in the schools in the way. Bachman points out that studies from Denmark have shown that there is no increase use of ADHD medication among youngest pupils in class. But in Denmark, 40%, almost half of the students, half of the autumn children start school the following year. They delay.
They delay
because in Denmark, there is your first assessment before starting regular school in kindergarten, I guess. They look at the individual child and say, are they ready or are they not ready? And if they are still exhibiting a lot of those younger, immature behaviors, perhaps they might wait. But Bachman is not advocating that all autumn starting school, because again, that would probably just shift the problem to winter children, would then be the youngest in class. But like the Danish system, they should be individually assessed with a focus on the child's specific needs. Study also looked at other types of medication, such as depression, anxiety, psychosis, sleeping pills, and they found the same age effect for several of these drugs as well. Clearly, children born late in the year are receiving more medication compared to the older ones.
Interesting. Very interesting. This is data. Who knows?
And it was made possible
Maybe
too because Norway has a very centralized. It's one country, but it's like one centralized healthcare system, so they could track. They could track
kids.
500,000 kids through their medical history, which is really amazing. With the drugs that they were assigned. So.
Yeah. Speaking of kids, I want to talk about some lying toddlers. Around about
I've never seen one of those.
You've never seen a lying toddler? What? Parents seem to report lying starting at about 2.5, 3 years old in kids. And the question is, what's going on with this lying? The manipulation of someone else to believe something in what you want them to believe, whether or not it's true. And so some researchers publishing in PLOS journals this week, they did an experiment in which they subjected a bunch of 2.5-year-olds to something like the marshmallow test. Not the marshmallow test, but there was a box. There's a little hole in it. And sometimes they allowed the parents to be around, and sometimes the parents weren't allowed to be around. And then they were like, don't look in the box. You don't get to look in the box. And then they'd come back later, and this is a test related to inhibitory control and whether the kids could, sit on their hands, not look in the box, listen to instruction, do what they were told. Right, what's in the box? What is in the box? And then the researchers came back and they asked the kids, did you look in the box? And a lot of the kids said, yes, even though they had not looked in the box.
Oh, interesting.
And so the question is, is this lying? what is going on here? And then they'd ask them, do you know what is in the box? And it was a stuffed teddy bear that was in the box.
Was not a snake, because that's what
It
I
was not
assuming.
a snake. It was not
was totally
dangerous. It was, nothing or anything like that. So did you peek? And they had 35% of the kids that peeked, 65% of the kids that did not peek. But a lot of the non-peekers, actually the ones that never peeked, they said, yes, I did peek. But they didn't know what was in the box. And so the question is, why did they falsely confess to the peeking?
Well, it's sort of like when somebody asks you if you've seen a movie and you're like, oh yeah, I saw that movie, and then you realize, oh gosh, I didn't actually see that movie. I don't know anything about it. Why did I tell that lie? That's a terrible lie to tell. Now they're talking about this movie and I've never seen it. I'll just keep nodding until they change the subject. I'll never do it again.
Yes, exactly. So they did snack delay tests similar to the marshmallow trials to see, whether or not these kids had the ability to control their wants, inhibitory control. And, even the kids that were more able to wait for a snack were less likely to peek in the box and all this kind of stuff. But what the researchers ended up taking into their conclusion was that the false confessors and even the truth tellers, maybe it was the beginning of the question that was asked. Did you? Did I? Did you do? It's yes. I understand. Did you? Yeah. And the researchers' conclusion in this study is not necessarily that these kids actually were malicious, meaning to manipulate in the lie that they told at 2.5 years of age, but more that it was a spontaneous lie rather than deliberate, because they were following the language that the adult was using. Yeah. And not so much that the kids were like, wanting to lie about something.
Yeah, and it's also going to be a thing where every single child imagined looking in the box.
Right, exactly.
So in the child mind of, did you look in the box? And they're thinking like, oh yeah, like several times apparently. There might be a memory of imagining it over and over again because something has been drawing your attention to it. So, it's very interesting.
I mean, an adult comes to you and says, "Did you peek?" Yeah. Yes, I did. Yes.
Supposed to? Then yes. If I wasn't supposed to, then definitely not.
Yeah, so this is more of an impulsive as opposed to a manipulatory response.
But they're fully capable of that too.
They're fully.
They're fully capable of that.
Yeah.
I've had 3 toddlers, two of which definitely made up stories to manipulate their papa.
For sure. 2.5 years of old?
Oh yeah.
Oh, 2.5. Okay.
Yeah.
2.5. All right.
This is a fun story about my oldest boy, Sebastian. He wanted a popsicle for breakfast. And I was like, no, popsicles are a treat, special occasions. It's not, we don't have those for breakfast. It's not food. And he went and he got the cereal box. And he was pretend reading the back of the cereal box. Uh-huh. He says, look, Papa, popsicles are food. Popsicles are breakfast. And I was like, oh, that was good.
That was good. But you still don't get a popsicle.
No, he got one. Well, he backed it up with evidence. I wanted to support that part of it. That he had brought text evidence. He might have been 3.
He might have been just a little bit more advanced. I have one more quick study here related to winter colds. And why do we get so many colds in the wintertime? Well, we've talked... Whoa, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Can I guess?
You guess. Guess away.
So the thing I've always heard is it has nothing to do with temperature, but it has to do with the fact that, well, sort of, because it's cold outside, so people are indoors more, and if you're in closer proximity to in a sealed air environment, then sicknesses transmit quick. Colds transmit faster that way. That's what I've always heard.
And this is one aspect of it, but a new study that was published out of Northeastern University this last week by Professor Mansour Amiji. He has been looking at samples from inside people's noses. He took, tissue samples from inside people's noses, and they investigated the role of the nasal epithelium-derived extracellular vesicles in their antiviral immunity responses. And so there's this... When you're in normal temperatures, at body temperatures, your nose is like, I'm happy, I'm at a body temperature, 98.6-ish degrees, it's all good, a virus comes in, or some kind of thing, and then your nasal mucosa is like, bleh, spit it out. And then there are these extracellular vesicles that get flushed out of the cells, extracellular, outside of the cell. They get out, and they have these receptors that are antiviral. They attach to the viruses. They end up fighting them off. So they took a lot of specimens from people's noses and then looked at them at room temperature or at body temperature, 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, versus 32 degrees Celsius, which is just like in the 86-ish, 89-ish degree
Pretty good.
range.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not a lot colder, really, but just, the cold air gets in there. It might have cooled down the nose just a little bit during the winter. And they determined that there were fewer of these extracellular vesicles that were elicited to suppress viral infections. They used fairly common RSV. We're dealing with now respiratory syncytial virus and other flu virus kinds of viruses to see. And so what they are considering, is that this is a mechanistic explanation for how more colds happen during the winter months. So it's not just that it's your nose. The inside of the nose gets cold, and so the vesicles are like, the cells are like, not gonna produce the stuff, and they don't. Yeah.
Seems like a very complicated answer. I like Kevin Reardon in the chat room's answer best. It's due to childcare.
Yeah, put kids in a room together, they catch each other things, and then they bring them home, and then you're sick.
And so does everybody else in society. And Kevin says, "Welcome to the collective." Yes.
Welcome.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. All of the speculation might just have to do with daycare or like kindergarten. Kids who lick playground equipment, sharing germs together, spreading it to the rest of the world.
What I find interesting about this, though, is that these researchers are, looking at mechanistic therapeutic solutions to this problem. Like, can we create some kind of therapeutic medication or a substance or something that you can use? And I'm just thinking to myself as I'm going by, well, hey, if you wear a mask, your nose is going to be warmer. So, I don't know. Just saying.
Can you imagine, like, you go ahead into the mall on a cold day, and you get, just before you walk in the mall, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just getting ready to go, and start rubbing your nose real hard. It's all nice and red. You're like, okay, yeah, now I'm ready.
Yeah, you put your hands over your mouth and your nose.
You got some little
nose,
like earmuffs, but going on the side of your nose to keep them warm.
Oh no,
Little
one of
tiny
those
ones.
pocket hot packs, that you break them and they get warm, but you just stick it over your nose to keep your nose warm. I'm never gonna get sick. Look, we've already solved it. Okay. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of fun-filled science discussion. If you are enjoying the show, please consider telling a friend, and do make sure to head over to TWIS.org and get one of our 2023 Blair's Animal Corner TWIS calendars. They are gorgeous, beautiful Lego animals, artwork that Blair created specifically for this calendar, and we are just so excited that you might be interested in them. Make great gifts. Digital downloads or printed versions are available. And if you go to the Zazzle Store, which is where the printed versions are, we have lots of other things too that make great gifts for you or others. Whatever it is. Okay, we're going to move forward now, but it's not Blair's Animal Corner time.
No, there's a new segment called Just Interesting Animal Corridor.
With
Justin.
With not Blair. I was going to play the music, but I can't play the music right now. This is This Week in Science. Okay, we're back. Let's talk about the animals. Justin, what you got?
Just Interesting Animals with Justin. Tel Aviv University studies discovered that the female locust has superpowers. Turns out, female locust's central nervous system has elastic properties, allowing her to stretch up to 2 or even 3 times her original length. That's pretty incredible. Lady locusts engage in this super locust behavior while laying eggs in the ground. All that stretching happens without causing any irreparable damage. It was surprising to find this, according to researchers. This is the only creature that they are aware of that can do this. For instance, nerves in the human nervous system can stretch about 30%. It's pretty good. 30% without tearing or becoming permanently damaged. So 200 to 300% is insane by comparison. They think that in the future, these findings may contribute to new developments in the field of regenerative medicine as a basis for nerve restoration, development of synthetic tissues, and of course, one day to make a super stretchy superhero human hybrid creature.
Ooh, like really like an elastic man. Like super stretchy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, you could. You really could. But if you did transpose this to human, if a human, you got a 15 to 18, 20 foot, maybe even foot long human being, it'd be wild. There's a graphic of this too, where her lady locust's abdomen section is stretching down into a hole. They've got these little tubular things at the end of the abdomen that dig out these deep trenches. And so when the abdomen pushes down to the ground, it gets to a certain depth, and it says, okay, now it's cool to lay eggs. We're down far enough, we've safely protected. And then it goes back into shape. And Lady Locust continues on her day like nothing happened.
This sounds like one of those, awesome things that happens to pregnant women. There are all sorts of changes that happen to the female mammalian body, but this is, an insect female that's sexually mature. I'm wondering, okay. Number one, why does it have to elongate? Is it part of the process of getting the eggs into the ground? Is that like a necessary aspect of it? Is it they elongate and then as they're squishing back up, it just squishes all the eggs out? What's happening with this locust and why? And then how much longer after they do this do they live?
You want a full longevity
Right?
study.
Don't locusts die? They're like, I reproduced, so now I'm gonna die.
Everything does eventually.
That's true.
But I guess this is according to the graphic you had up there, it looks like it's about a half-hour process. So it's not like a rapid like bloop bloop kind of a situation. You know, it's a slow elongation, and the researchers are saying they expected there was a hypothesis previously, some other examples in nature that they're familiar with of some form of an accordion-like mechanism, a segmented section of sort of like, what do you call it, Russian dolls, where you've got, one thing is inside another. None of that. They discovered that the nervous system of the female locust has elastic properties.
That's cool.
That allow it to elongate. So it's a very cool thing, but it's also a mechanism they haven't seen before. I love this quote. This is Dr. Panchasik, who is the lead researcher on this. This finding is almost incomprehensible from a biomechanical and morphological point of view. It shows you how sort of like unexpected of a find this was.
But it's definitely related to sexual maturity. So there are hormones involved. There's something going on that changes the capacity of these locusts to be able to become more elastic. Yeah. Making interesting, what is it, quinceañera, or, the various ceremonies that we have for coming of age. And now you are elastic. We will stretch you and you will be fine.
Yeah, isn't that pretty close to home? In fact,
I don't know. But maybe we should be talking to the animals a little bit more. Animals.
Have you got talking animals?
Well, animals talk all the time. It's just whether or not we actually understand them. If you were to sit down and listen to a bunch of animal sounds, horses, sheep, cows, do you think that you would understand what these animals were feeling? The emotion that was being conveyed?
Interesting. So I feel like with the cows and horses, I might have an inkling of their mood. Like sheep and goats, they just always sound annoyed. So you can't tell. Right. Like they're
right.
just like, I don't know if you're happy, sad, or really mad. It all sounds the same to me. But a horse and a cow, they kind of have different emotive qualities to the moos and the nays.
Okay,
This is a farm kid, telling you.
Right. Okay, so you're a farm kid, right. So these researchers publishing in the Royal Society this week, they were studying how whether people understand or can kind of understand the emotional aspects. So they were looking at the aspects of emotional arousal, which is like bodily activation related to emotion. Valence is whether or not something is negative or positive, and whether or not we could, by listening to the calls of these animals under various situations of stress or just being on the field and being happy or whatever, whether we could get the emotion or whether we could understand the valence, whether or not it was positive or negative. They also did a bunch of, had participants listen to a bunch of recordings of kind of meaningless word speech, random kind of blah, 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 blah kind of stuff that had different emotional or valent connotations to it in the way that it sounded. So the interesting aspect of this is that the people who were in the studies listening to the animals, they were able to rate above chance the arousal levels of vocalizations of three of the six ungulate species that were involved, valence of 4 of them. They didn't differ a lot across arousal levels, and there was a lot of variation on whether or not it was negative or positive sounds. The researchers go on to say that they think that this indicates that there is a shared mammalian system for expressing and understanding emotions, and that we are tuned into that. So what I find interesting, they've got an image in their paper that they published where they've got the correct recognition related to the emotional aspect or the valence aspect. And people seem really, really in tune with horses and with pigs and with goats. We're doing really great there. Not
goats?
So much. Not
People
as
can
much.
understand a goat. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And then when it comes to correct recognition of valence, people we're really, really close to horses. Like, we're really good at understanding horses, which I find very interesting. Not so good at understanding cows. We don't do the cows so much. But the whole issue here is that domesticated animals, those that we work with often, we are more in tune with. Those that are wild, like a wild boar, as opposed to just a commercial pig, we are not as much in tune with. However, it seemed that we were very in tune with the valence of the wild boars, which would make sense if you didn't want to be attacked by an angry wild boar. Right?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting study considering cross-species communication and what humans understand, whether we understand.
I thought that was fascinating, that graph, because the people looked like more in tune with understanding goats than they were cows.
Yes.
You know, cow's an open book. To me, cow just tells you how their day's going.
Right.
And a goat is just sounds like, rah, 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 like that's, they've got one
I'm with you on the goats thing.
all the time. Unless they're like, what was the
here.
mood of the goat? Annoyed. Oh yeah, that's what everybody guessed. Oh,
always.
Well then.
Goats are always just annoyed.
Just annoyed.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, mammals. Do we share an emotional system? Probably. Because it probably helps us out a little bit. Again, this is This Week in Science. If you are enjoying the show, please head over to twis.org. Click on the Patreon link if you're interested in supporting our show as an ongoing Patreon patron. Sponsor, join our Patreon community, $10 or more a month, and we will thank you by name at the end of the show. There's lots of other stuff that comes in the mail if you become a patron, as well as you can become part of our Discord community. And also, while you're at twis.org, please consider heading over and clicking on the 2023 calendar purchasing in print or PDF download. Justin, tell me some stories.
Okay. This is, for those, occasionally if you're a long-time listener, you've heard me making light of archaeologists' inclination to ascribe ritual or spiritual significance to any ancient artifact that they can't explain otherwise. As though folks of the ancient world were somehow obsessed with nothing more than a zealot's appreciation of whatever beliefs they might have had. Must have taken a lot of time. And you wouldn't be entirely wrong in thinking that ritual and spiritual concerns existed. It's just improbable or even impractical to imagine ancient man being so dedicated to a spiritual being in every facet of their material existence that almost every artifact of any type is given this ritual or spiritual significance.
Yeah.
Take the case of the engraved owls. These small owl idols carved into bone or wood. Around 4,000 of them have been discovered across the Iberian Peninsula to around 5,000 years ago. Many have been found in tombs, leading past archaeologists to ascribe ritualistic meanings to the offerings. They might represent lost deities or spiritual protectors of the dead. There's a good argument that because some owls are nocturnal, that the owl's ability to hunt at night gives them the power to see in darkness, imbibes them with some sort of wisdom or perception beyond normal human existence. Or
No, you did not go deaf. Justin, unmute your mic. Can you?
Oh, I thought I had. I am so sorry.
Or.
All right, where was I?
Or.
Oh, did I not say what they were yet?
Or.
So they might have been deities, right? They might have been seeing into the unseen like an owl hunting at night, to the extra perception of the owl. Or, as is published in scientific reports, the re-examined interpretation suggests these owl plaques may have been children's toys.
Oh, they look
Toys
so
are
like stuffed animal-y. Not at all. They look like
yeah.
carved rocks.
Yeah, it's going to be rock, bone, wood, whatever they could find. So it's an interesting thing that toys are often missing from the archaeological record, almost as if the concept of child's play was non-existent in the ancient world. Like a child playing with things hadn't been invented yet. And you can't blame the ancient parents with all the rules and cultural and spiritual activities archaeologists imagined them to be involved in. On top of the constant hunting and gathering, there was likely no time to craft children's toys. And that might be so. Researchers provide evidence to suggest that the thousands of owl dolls discovered were likely made by children. The authors assessed 100 plaques and rated them based on how many of the 6 owl traits they displayed, including 2 eyes, feathery tufts, patterned feathers, a flat facial disc, a beak, and wings. The authors compared these to 100 modern images of owls drawn by children aged 4 to 13 and observed many similarities between the depictions of owls. Owl drawings more closely resembled owls as children aged and became more skillful at the craft of representing them. Authors point out that the presence of 2 small holes at the top of many plaques was previously thought to be for stringing them to a cord through them to be worn, right? For the impractical purpose of wearing an owl medallion.
Yeah.
Instead, they say there's no wear signs that would associate with that specifically. Instead, they speculate that those holes were there to insert feathers. Because local owl species have those sort of feathery tufts on top of their heads. Yeah. And so it looks much more likely that these placements were used to better represent or resemble the tufts on the heads of some of the regional owl species. They're correct. The newly discovered mass prevalence of children's toys in the region, I don't know, maybe give archaeologists pause next time they find a little rattle made of bone for honoring the dead, or a small carving out of an animal deity, and ask, would a child play with this? And if so, that might be reason enough for it to exist.
I could see that happening. Yeah. Kids like toys. We probably
Kids
have
like toys? Are you kidding me? I think I got a 10-month-old right now who has more personal possessions than I do. He's already got more toys than I have things on the planet.
That seems about right. Yep.
Yeah. And like that was, how has that not been the same since the ancient times? I don't know. Oh, and then the last story tonight. Oh, look at those cute little owl drawings.
Look at those cute little
owl
drawings.
My last story of the night is I brought just good news.
Yay!
The news segment that dares to look under the college couch cushions of current academic research in search of positive news, loose change, and the occasional unexpected surprise. Just good news, Chardonnay edition. Yeah. Archaeological assessments of soil and climate in the UK have discovered that around 1/5 to even a quarter of the UK is suitable to grow Chardonnay grapes for high-quality winemaking. Alex Biss, a PhD student who led the study, said, there are some great sparkling wines produced from Chardonnay grapes already in the UK. That's with the bubbles. But the grapes used in sparkling wines don't need as much ripening as for still wines. That's the ones without the bubbles. A good Chardonnay vintage is not attained reliably in Britain at present, but climate change looks to change that in the not too distant future. Thanks to global warming, ideal conditions will be reached around mid-century. The research model considered 3 aspects of weather that affect quality of Chardonnay. The mean temperature between April and September, mean minimum temperature in September, the cool at night index, total rainfall between June and September, and the model identified 20 to 25% of UK land may be suitable by 2050 for growing Chardonnay grapes. Now,
there's good news in the future. It's just different places are gonna make the wine. Yes.
20 to 25%. This is up from the current global warming assisted situation of 2%. So that's quite an improvement.
Yeah.
Quoting Biss without attempting an English accent, but maybe drifting a bit mid-Atlantic, we are not celebrating global warming, which for so many is already causing major challenges to food production, public health, and more. Rather, it's something we can monitor and respond to by changing what we grow and where. They used an intermediate greenhouse gas emission scenario in which climate policies can limit global temperature rise to between 2 and 3 degrees Celsius by 2100. I'm glad they're using that. That's a very much more realistic model than sticking. There's too many, like, if the IPCC, if we the 1.5, if we, forget it. This is better, 2 to 3. Under this scenario, emissions continue to rise till 2040, and then only then begin to level off. So, just good news for UK viticulturists. It'll be fun to see what other neat surprises global warming brings us in the not too distant future.
Well, on the other side of it, maybe some bad news for France, because that means
Hey! You know, everybody's gonna have a different silver lining. This is the just good news.
There we go. Just good news.
Don't bring us down.
All right, I won't bring us down, but I will.
Keep the blinders on, Kiki.
No. Maybe I'll just keep my VR headset. No. I will implant a Neuralink thing into my head. No, maybe I won't after all.
What is this Neuralink? Yeah, you teased the story at the beginning. What is this?
Yeah, so Neuralink is another company run by Elon Musk. We have discussed it before. It's a medical device company that is developing a brain implant that what they say the hope is that it will help paralyzed people walk and cure neurological ailments. However, Musk's previous statements have been to the effect that we need to be able to basically integrate ourselves with computers, because if we can't become AI will destroy us. So, whatever.
Somebody forgot how to be a human being.
Yeah, well, this company it's under a federal probe by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Inspector General at the request of a federal prosecutor, and it is focusing on violations of the Animal Welfare Act. Researchers within the company, under whistleblower status and anonymity and others, there are documents and interviews with current and former employees that Reuters has in their possession that Musk has been pushing the company in the same way he pushes all his companies. And so as a result, corners are being cut, and the way that animal surgeries and testing is being done is unfortunately leading to the death of more animals than would likely be necessary if the research were done at a slower pace, with care taken to be sure that things like the right size implant were being put into the animal, or that they had done not in vivo studies prior to work out the kinks of a device before putting it into an animal. The animals they use are rats, mice, pigs, and also primates. But the issue here is the different. What we're looking at is a private company and how the company is using animals for research. There's no regulations on how many animals companies can use for research. And there is leeway to scientists to determine when and how to use animals in experiments. Neuralink has passed all of the USDA inspections of the facility, so these reports are coming out of the company itself from people who are working in the company and are concerned about the way that the work is being done. Yes. So Musk has said that we're going to get to human trials of Neuralink very soon, and he wants to get to human trials within the next 6 months. But because of that schedule and the stress that everyone is under, employees are concerned that there are hack jobs, quote unquote, being done, last minute changes before surgeries, things being shortchanged in order to meet deadlines that increase risk to animals. And, this is something that I'm glad that the federal government is investigating, because this is important. We don't want devices tested in humans that haven't necessarily passed all the bars, have, gone through studies that have been pushed too quickly. So I think this is one of those interesting middle places between, venture capital, startup culture, and scientific research, and, how it all works. But, yeah, I think, there are animals involved, and there are ethical issues at play here, and I don't know, it's an interesting point, and I want everyone to know that this story is out there, and then that there are questions about the quality of resulting data from the work that is being done within the company.
A few months ago, I might have heard that story and thought, yeah, well, you know what? Hey, make all the mistakes. Go ahead and push it. See what happens when you put the wrong size thing in it. Do all of that in the animal version.
Right.
So that if you ever get to that point where you're going to put this in a human being, you've looked at a lot of things and recorded all and pay attention to it all.
Yes.
And some people are uncomfortable with working with animals, and any number seems to be too great for them.
Absolutely.
I could have alibied all of that. But then I've seen now the Mr. What do you say his name is? Mr. Musk? Is that the fella? The ridiculous messages he was sending to the Twitter employees about needing to work ridiculous hours and dedicate their existence to the company's thing. And if you don't like it, take a hike or do it. And they're firing the guy that made the passcodes, the security guy at the building, and then had to call him up and rehire him because nobody could get into the building. Like now, before that, I would have had confidence like, well, Mr. Musk seems to know what he's doing. He did. He's got the rocket company.
He's got the rockets. He's got
and that boring company is still drilling its way to the core of the Earth, I believe. So there's still something. Tesla's
not working much anymore.
Tesla's a great car company. Guy must know what he's doing. So I doubt that he's putting any undue pressure on people. And then now there's evidence that says, this as a CEO, he can act rather erratically and recklessly, and so I now have so much more confidence in those whistleblowers than I would without the CEO's current previous actions.
Right. One interesting connection to all this is that previously, because of the location in California, the University of California, Davis does have a primate center. So Neuralink was involved in a partnership with the University of California, Davis to conduct its experiments. But there was a complaint there of surgeries that killed monkeys. And so the veterinary staff said that there were health problems caused by experiments. This was from UC Davis. And the UC Davis spokesperson said that it defended its research with Neuralink and said that it followed all laws and regulations. But Neuralink has since taken all research in-house. It is not partnering with anybody else anymore. Elon has created a monkey Disneyland, and they are, I don't know, it's a how do you push forward quickly? It's not rockets. These are living beings. It's a very different, how do you iterate and how do you do the work at the fast pace that financial progress often requires, and still do it ethically and still do it well. So there are, there are a lot of questions here, and I'm glad, once again, I said that the government is looking into it because government regulation of this kind of animal research is very important.
And a couple last notes. If I was in that position of this invention and this thing, I would want that proof of concept done out of the company. And I know you're like, oh, we don't want to share information.
Right? Yes.
But
no bias.
There'd be such a risk of everybody who's involved in the research's paycheck relying on getting a specific result. Yep. Then you could end up with a false toddler effect of people saying that we all looked in the box. Everybody looked. Of course we did. Why wouldn't we? It's our job to look in the box. That's what we did, even though they haven't looked in the box. And then you end up with all this investment and it does nothing. On the other hand, I have a feeling that there's a secret Musk fella island somewhere where this is already being done on humans.
It's possible.
Some sort of international waters island. So they're going to figure it out one way or the other.
They'll figure it out one way or the other, but this is where it is right now, and I think we've made it to the end of the show.
Oh, are we there?
Yeah, I think we've done it. We have come to the end, the part of the show where we love to say thank you to everyone who has spent your time with us so far, who has joined us for the last bit of time. And I would really like to get my my stuff all set up here so I can give my specific thanks to patrons. They've changed an interface. Hee hee hee. This is fun. Okay, I will figure this out. La 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 la. Get to this point. La 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 la. I didn't do this before the show, and I should have.
By the way, when we do eventually, do you get those Neuralink things going on?
Yes.
People will still not be using the metaverse.
It's true.
It still won't be necessary.
Still not going to be necessary. Yes.
Still just a complete waste of time. You start to get the idea that sometimes people can get lucky once.
I live in virtual reality all the time right now. All right. Well, I would love to thank you all for joining us. Thank you, everyone in the chat rooms who has chatted and made your comments and asked your questions. Thank you for being here with us. Those of you who are viewing live, those of you who are viewing us later, thank you for being here. Thank you to those of you who helped make this show happen. Fada, thank you so much for helping with show notes and social media. Identity4, thank you for recording the show. And Arnlore and Gord, thank you for helping to keep our chat rooms nice, happy places to be in. And Rachel, thank you so much for editing the show. Make sure we edit out a whole bunch of those little blips and bleeps and other things that were going on tonight. And I would love to thank our Patreon sponsors. Teresa Smith, James Shaford, Richard Badge, Kent Northcote, Rick Loveman, Pierre Velazar, John Ratnaswamy, Carl Kornfeld, Karen Tawzy, Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vegard Shefstad, Hal Snyder, Donathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, Ali Coffin, Gaurav Sharma, Ragan, Derek Schmidt, Don Mundus, Stephen Albaran, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fredus104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, David E. Youngblood, Gru and Bob, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Christopher Rappin, Dana Pearson, Richard, Brendan Minish, Johnny Gridley, Remy Day, Flying Out, Christopher Dreyer, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul, Rick Ramus, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Adam Mishkan, Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Disney, David Silmerly, Patrick Pecoraro, Tony Steele, and Jason Roberts. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, head on over to TWIS.org and click on that Patreon link. On next week's show,
we'll be back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, and again 10 a.m. Thursday, European time. Broadcasting live from our YouTube and Facebook channels. Oh, yeah. I guess if you think about it that way.
all the same time.
Broadcasting live from our Facebook and from twis.org/live.
Oh, yeah. Want to listen to us as a podcast? Just search for This Week in Science wherever podcasts are found. If you enjoyed the show, get your friends to subscribe too.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes, links to stories are available on our website, www.twis.org, and you can also sign up for our newsletter.
Woohoo! Someday we'll do one. And you can contact us directly. Email me, Kirsten, at kirsten@thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twist.org. Just put twist in the subject line so your email doesn't get spam filtered into a future bottle of Chardonnay that I'm just gonna drink and not read the subject line of.
And if you want to get a chance to be an experiment on Musk Island, you can hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes due in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope that you will join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the science broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten you.
It's the after show. I have no Chardonnay. I have orange-flavored water. Justin probably went to get coffee. I don't even know what's going on anymore. How's everyone out there? Thank you for joining us for another episode of TWIS. I hope that Blair is having a good holiday, little vacation she's going on. That's good. Do I have vodka or rum? I do not. No, I just have orange-flavored water. Flavored like orange. Kind of. It's got vitamins. Oh, wait, no. Electrolytes. There we go. Eric Knapp, you got a calendar. Yay! I love hearing about people getting calendars. That is fantastic. Ha ha ha. Fada, thank you for that hilarious gif in our Discord chat. What is that? Amy Schumer drinking a very large glass of what looks like wine. Scary. Oh, did Blair post pictures on Instagram? I haven't used Instagram in a very long time, I'm afraid. I've been trying to avoid social media. However, I keep getting sucked into the Twitter, yes, and also now the Mastodon. I am on the Mastodon, if, would anyone like the Mastodon? Oh, 1.5 feet of snow. Yes, that makes getting to the mailbox very hard, Eric. Yeah, we got some snow here in Portland, which was wonderful, but it was only like inches. Made it very beautiful around here. Ooh, vodka or rum with a small amount of sugar is what Aranlore is saying. Maybe with a cherry. Could be very tasty. Oh no, what? Did we get Pi Day wrong on the calendar? What? Oh, I know. I know. I'm supposed to be interacting with people about twists on the social media, and I know that is my conundrum, my life conundrum. Noodle's got a calendar life too. Conundrum. Woot woot.
Nice.
Nice. Let's see. Pi Day. So that would be on the downloadable. How did we get that? I swear I looked at things. Every day is Pi Day. Thank you, Lauren. I agree with that, but okay, hold on. Really? No, I already downloaded it. Where did it go?
It's never Pi Day in Europe.
Because it's the backwards. The way they do their dates is backwards.
Well, they do it they go day, month, year.
Yes.
Which is logical. If you just think about it, it's you can actually. I mean, it works. I don't know.
Oh my God, we're a day off.
What are you saying?
Wait. Did we really get it? Damn it! Darn it!
What happened? What's going on? What are you cursing about?
I'm not cursing. I don't curse. We put it on the wrong day.
We didn't.
Okay. We did. We put it on March 13th instead of March 14th. Okay, everybody who orders the downloadable calendar, you will understand that you just get to have Pi Day all week that week.
Is it because it just get pulled from the last year's calendar? Is that what happened?
No, I mean it's always 3.14, right?
Yeah,
3.1412 pi. It's the
but if it's on
14th of March.
Yeah, but if it was on a Monday before and it's on Monday, I don't know.
I don't know what happened. It's wrong on the printable calendar.
Oh no!
But that means I can fix it and let
Yeah.
people download again. So if you've already purchased it, I can
that's
make
a
sure I
pretty
can send it
big
to you.
error for a science show. I mean, if we weren't a science show, if we were like a pet show,
Just
then I'd be like, they're
Rick Loveman,
not sciencey folks.
thank you. But oh my gosh. Oh, Eric Knapp, we made your birthday pie day. Yes, eat
Just
pie.
for you. That's why we did it. That's the reason. That's the reason we did it.
I like Lauren's way of looking at it. Lauren Gifford, errors are always more valuable. Yes. Right?
Yeah,
this is the more
these are the
collectible
collector
version.
edition. Oh, it's embarrassing.
That's really funny. I swear, I scrolled through everything and I was like, I know when Pi Day is.
It is a communication show. That is a liberal art. It's not a math show. Thank you, Arlenor.
Well, if you order the calendar from Zazzle, none of the science days are on it anyway, so your printed calendar's not going to have that error. So you can write Pi Day on whatever day you want, if that's what you need.
TWIS solution for reducing errors? Less information. Yeah, there's always a solution.
It's good. It's good.
So it's already, I gotta go back. Because it's tomorrow where I am.
Yes.
I missed the opening of the new biodiversity conference that has started in Montreal today. Your today, my yesterday. So I'm kind of curious what the opening statements of this will be. I'm a little bit after the climate conference. I am a little bit suspicious that not a lot of important stuff will happen. I think the fact that they are looking to address the biotech issue is an important one. It's this thing that I ran into or found out about working in biotech was that I think what it was is I was looking at that study we reported on of shared microbiome between bamboo eaters across the globe. Yeah.
Yes.
Red panda, the giant panda,
Yeah.
certain types of, I guess, lemurs. No, I guess it wouldn't be lemurs. I don't know. Different termites, whatever.
Termites,
like different
yeah,
things.
yeah.
This shared microbiome overlap in the Venn diagram of all these. And you thought, well, okay, now something in that which should be good at breaking down cellulose, if not just specifically bamboo. And one of the things that was pointed out to me is like, yeah, the problem is these are microbes found in animals from a whole bunch of different countries. You can't just research them. What do you mean you can't just research them? Yeah, you can't use them because legally they belong to that country. It would be the same thing. It's almost like a not cultural appropriation. What would it be?
Well, it's biodiversity appropriation. It's
so you
taking the
can't take a
biodiversity, which is a
soil
resource.
microbe.
Yeah, it's the resource of that country. Yeah.
Apparently, you can't take a soil microbe from France and develop a drug in Indonesia because you didn't have. That's not yours. Which I never thought that I get that countries control the sea space and the airspace above them, and they have like these boundaries that have been put on maps. But I didn't know that it included ownership of microbial diversity on those lands.
All the things.
So I think that's one of the things that they're looking to address is a breaking of that law so that research can just use whatever microbes are on planet Earth towards the goal of research.
Okay, so I appreciate that perspective because, yes, I think research should move forward and we should understand more about the microbial biodiversity of our planet. This is important. Where are soil microbes? What are they doing in different ecosystems? What roles do they play? What's happening there? But the other side of it, we know that historically, corporations, rich individuals, countries, governments, come into other countries and just, they take things, right? They take the rights to things. And so if there are, if ecosystem biodiversity is essential for sustainability and for survival, we also need to manage the use of those life resources, the animals, the microbes, like whatever it is, we need to manage their use in research as well. So, even in the United States, if you are doing a study where you have to go collect animals, you have to get a permit to go collect. You say, I need this many animals, and you have to get a permit to be able to do that. You can't just go take animals out of the wild. And you might think differently about the ground, but at the same time, here in the United States and in the West and in the Southwest, we are experiencing a massive loss of topsoil. And so do we just, go digging around and... Yeah, in the Midwest, right?
The Midwest, there was a study that I looked at that I didn't do. It's what was it, like something crazy, like 10 to 1,000 times quicker erosion than previously anticipated from topsoils there. And, largely agricultural lands.
Largely agricultural. And, a lot of this stuff is, it's okay, it's your land, you do what you want with it and, whatever. But even as we talked about the TANIS site at the beginning of the show, that's private land. And the De Palma researcher, he got a lease to be able to work on that land. So there are ownership rights, there's property rights, there's a lot of stuff. I don't know. I hope that what we come across, that these biodiversity conferences and bringing everybody together globally to start looking at these issues is, how can we all cooperate and collaborate to, yes, make some of these studies easier, but maybe also to not just have white researcher from rich college university in North America going to poor area in, ecologically rich whatever area and just doing whatever they want. How about collaboration across borders with researchers that actually increases the cultural value of the research that's happening? And, there's so many things. Yeah.
And to be fair, most likely that scenario is going to be state-sponsored Chinese scientists. Apparently that's where 60-70% of the meaningful research is actually being done right now.
It's fascinating. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to, I hope that the biodiversity conference can bring us better places than the COP conference did, but, we'll see. We will see.
One of the problems is getting somebody who's been assigned to represent a country going to a conference that is going to be about global issues. They're like, all those global issues sound great for all of you except for where it conflicts with business at home, and then I'm going to be against it. And everybody's going to have so many of those things that I really hope that they figure something out, because it's something like, I think one of the reports is they're looking for a 30 by 30 was one of the articles I read, where they want 30% of the 30% biodiversity
by 2030.
Yeah, 30% of the biodiversity on the planet protected by 2030 is the only way we can get to a sustainable goal by 2050. So, good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, we've got the science. We're learning new things all the time. We're putting this information to use, hopefully, in enacting policy. But in the end, it is all just people working with people and trying to figure out how to live together and survive. And everybody's a bit selfish. Some people are more selfish than others. So that's where the politics comes into it. And, there's the old saying that, any compromise that you come out of where both sides feel like they, have not gotten what they wanted, that's a good compromise.
Yeah.
If both sides feel like they've lost out, that's a good compromise.
Rick Loveman wants to know how different Christmas is in Denmark from the U.S. Well, I can tell you it starts earlier. So in the United States, Christmas season doesn't start, technically isn't supposed to start, didn't traditionally start till after Thanksgiving. They don't have a Thanksgiving in Denmark. And I think the harvest season is probably in July because the summer is so short. So yeah, it starts pretty early. It's very much what you would expect. Christmas decorations everywhere, Christmas music kind of stuff. The traditions as we get closer to Christmas are very, very different. They're very, there's very specific foods that are made that aren't made in the States. There's very specific regional, there's singing that takes place, and the one that just drives me nuts.
I like singing.
The one that drives me nuts and that I'll never get comfortable with is the practice of putting lit candles on a Christmas tree.
Fire! Yeah. This is a fire hazard.
And then a bunch of people who may or may not have been drinking join hands and dance and sing in a circle around the Christmas tree.
I mean, some traditions, maybe we should alter them just a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, Denmark isn't a very forested country. Oh, what forests they had all got turned into Viking ships a long time ago and got sailed over to the UK. So there's not a lot of trees. They've been reforesting a bit, but also a lot of houses are brick and concrete. So maybe the fire concerns aren't as, the liberal use of fireworks in New Year's is one indication I got that people aren't really too concerned with fire safety. It's not a very dry country. It's very wet.
Yeah,
it makes snows a lot in the winter.
The conditions, they influence the culture.
Oh, and there is a drink that you'll see, and I can't remember what it's called. Oh, God.
Glögg.
It's not glog. It's something like that, though. It's something very much like that. It's a very, it's like some kind of a hot toddy. Glick? Maybe that's the same thing.
I love
something
hot
like
toddies.
this.
Yummy.
Tivoli. You got to go to Tivoli for Christmas. It's the oldest, maybe second oldest amusement park in the world.
Wow.
It's a pretty fun place. It's all themed up for Christmas.
Very cool.
It's cold. It's been snowing here the last few days.
We like snow. And on that note, with the snow, I think it's time that we go. And that Picard, everyone, if you haven't done it yet, the Christmas tradition of watching the edit from, what was it, Star Trek The Next Generation. Make it so, make it so, make it so.
Make it so, make it so, make it so.
It's just an annual tradition, like A Christmas Story, like so many other movies. This short video, a re-edit of grabbing little clips out of so many little episodes of Star Trek and make it so. Make it so.
I have no idea
Make
what
it
you're talking
so.
about. I think you've stopped making sense to me, which means either my coffee has stopped working or it's time for you to say goodnight, Kiki.
Oh, no. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Justin. Good night, Kiki.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of This Week in Science. It's been wonderful to talk about all the science, and I'm so glad that you were here. And we'll be back again next week with a Blair. So I hope that you will join us once again next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Buy our error-filled digital download calendar. And also, there's the printed one on Zazzle, if you haven't done that one yet. But in the meantime...
Quick, get that digital one quick. It's the collector's item. It's all going to change.
Buonanotte. Yes. Ciao, bello. Bonne nuit. We will see you next week. Bon semaine. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay curious.
Hi.
Thank you.